Hello everyone, Kim Victoria here with another paper bag tutorial, and this is one that has been requested, and I sure do appreciate that. Requests are very helpful indeed. The original video I will link in the description box, and it was just 5 ideas for making journals with paper bags, and this was the one that got me started with it. And what's different about this particular style is that it's vertical. So the primary thing in this video is for me to just go over how I made the hinges. So it's not, it's not rocket science, but I kind of invented it for myself. There may be somebody else who's done it out there, but it was just something I was playing with. Anyway, I was going to teach a local art group how to make a junk journal with paper bags. And this was this was the example I made kind of in a grungy and a mixed style so that every spread would be different and have different items in it. So it was the idea. And in that little class, I made this really simple one, which has a small signature in it, but it also has pockets in the paper bags themselves and pockets in here, and these I added separate. I covered up the bottom flap of the paper bags. And in case I don't know what closure I'm going to use on this new one, but this is little strips of magnets. There's one in here, and there's this one here, and this is when you get business cards, like magnetic business cards or that sort of thing. I just cut off a couple of slices, and it makes kind of a neat little closure with a ribbon. So there was that one, and these were made with your common lunch bag, just your, grocery store lunch bags that come by the 50 or the 100 or whatever. But once you've got them all covered up with your papers and everything, they're nice and sturdy. So you could also, of course, you could make this same one with gift bags. And of course, you would have a choice here on hinging. I'll show a couple of different things with that. But you could leave the handles on completely, and you could embellish them or whatever. Or you could take all the handles off the middle ones, hinge the others together, so it's kind of like those won't be there, and you could have handles on just the front and back. And I don't think I'm going to be doing that one, but it's kind of like, just give you a few ideas, right? So I am not going to use either of these in today's video. I am going to use coffee bags. It's I go to my local health food store and I buy coffee, and I made a couple of junk journals with coffee bags in another video. I'll link that one down below as well. But that was your standard kind of fold the bag in half kind of thing. And this one I want to do where I use 4. In this one, I used 2 lunch bags. And what's easy about 2 lunch bags, let's grab those again. What's easy about 2 lunch bags is you can decide whether you want the bottom flaps on the outside or the inside. You can use them as pockets. But really, all you need is to put a hinge all the way around on the outside. You can glue these flaps together. You can sew in a signature, and you've got covers. And of course, you can cut it down to whatever size you want. Okay, and in this one, all I did was I just used from a notepad. I tore out some pages and folded them in half, and they fit great. So there was that idea. On this one, though, I wanted to have some expansion room so that whatever was inside, it would still, let's set that one out of the way, so it would still be flat. Okay, so it wasn't going to gape, but you can kind of see that if I had glued all of these hinged ends together, I would have had an open mouth kind of journal, and I wanted it to have some wiggle room. So that's what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to do it with coffee bags. And I think on this one, no, it's a different one. You can use cloth or you can use paper for your hinges. And I've already cut my hinges. I think I have everything ready to go. So I'll set that one aside. I just wanted to quickly let you know, it's like These are just the bottom of the bags for the pockets. And I have a different idea for the coffee bag. And I'll show you how to make this little tag holder, which is also side tuck. And so yeah, so this is the bottom of the bag. I'm going to do a little something different. Bottom of the bag again, and then added pockets. And of course the bags themselves are still full-length pockets. And okay, just real quick, this was just a little notepad. And this one I did do in kind of a grungy style with old map pages. These were also map pages. These were the indexing. And yeah, this was indexing, lots of stenciling and kind of scrappy collage work. This one I made a little more clean with the different tags and stickers. This one, different kind of a grungy with the napkin decoupage. And this one again is the map index pages with a lot of stenciling and that sort of thing. But we need to do something different every time, right? Okay, so got the bags, I've got hinges, I've got some various things ready. So I guess we should just get started, right? So I've decided to use 4 of these coffee bags. I'm going to hinge them together, and I made 3 hinges, and this is just packing paper. That's all it is. I did cut I cut it into these 2-inch strips and glued 2 of them together. So these are a little heavier than just a plain old packing paper. You could certainly use some kind of heavier paper. You could use cloth. I just decided to use 2 inches because that will fit nicely inside these flaps. So that's the main consideration. And so I'm going to show you that. But this is 2 strips of paper at the length I want, glued together. And I just glued these together with, I think, glue stick, which, you know, whatever kind of glue you'd like, but glue stick was just fine for that. I'm going to use plain old PVA white glue to glue these in because these bags are sturdy. These coffee bags are lined with plastic. So, and because this is a double, you know, I can use a strong PVA glue. I do want to take off the wire closures. I don't need those. And initially, you know, I'm not entirely sure what how tall I want them, but I'm going to leave them full height for now, and if I want to cut them down later, I can. So this is your first decision, is where do you want these bottom flap pockets to be? Do you want to cover them up? Do you want them on the outside, inside? Because I have done all of those. So I decided I'm going to match them up here, and I'm going to match them up here, and then on the inside, between the two, I'm going to sew a signature. And I have that ready to go too. I'm also going to have fun with the fact that there's these boxes that I don't need anymore because when I go to the health food store, I always get the same one and they have the coffee grinder there. So I don't need to write in here, but this is the idea here is for the customer to be able to write whatever kind of coffee they got. So this is my plan. I'm going to put these flaps facing each other and put a signature in the middle. So now that I've decided that, I want to hinge these together in this way. And this is where you want to be thinking about the hinge itself. And I want to have this, I want to be leaving these open on this side because I want this flexibility, which is what I was showing you on the one that I'd already made. So also, you can't go all the way to the bottom. You have to stop your hinge at the point where it starts to fold on an angle, because that's how the bag opens. So there's an angle in here, so you can only go down so far. And I could, you know, I could make it full length and trim off whichever way it would be, but it's not necessary. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these together. And the easy way to do that is just start on one side. And always reminding myself, okay, I'm going to put these two together. So I want to put it on, let's see. Okay, I want to put these two together. Get this straight. Okay, so because two of these are going to be together, I want the hinge on this side. So that's what I want to be thinking about. So I just want to, I just keep checking and double checking. And I'm going all the way to the top. I'm going to assume I'm going to make my signature be full length. But I cut these so that they stop where the bottom hinge for the flap starts to turn to an angle. And you can even see it here because there's the angle of the fold that makes the bottom. So I can't go any further than that point there. So I've still got my flexibility, my open. And I might not need that on the front and back, but I'm going to take my time and see where it goes. And again, I'm making sure my pockets are matched because that's what I want to do. And make sure that you go on the inside. The inside. Don't go all the way around. Otherwise you won't be able to hinge it to the next one. You've got to go inside. And I want to keep it lined up with the other bag. Make sure those bottoms are lined up and make sure the sides are lined up. And the nice thing about PVA is you've got room, you've time to move things about and make sure everything lines up nicely. So this is the spine part of our construction. So you can see how I've got those. It's inside. So yeah, I believe me, I think about it and I check and I double check and I triple check. So this is our spine. So the next one is going to be these two facing each other. So the next one is going to go, we've got this side of the hinge here, I've got to put one here. So see, now I still have my flaps. And this one, again, and the reason I'm going over this a couple of times and everything is because when I was teaching the class for making these, there was definitely some confusion, because people hadn't done it before. So we had a couple of faux pas, but it was fine because we were able to kind of flip things around because you could zigzag this. If I wanted to, well, I can't do it now on this one, but if I put a hinge over here, you could have a hinge here, and then you could have a hinge here, and then you could have a hinge here. So it could be it could be an accordion fold. It could be like this. It's just that I want to have all of the spines on the same side. So that's why I'm thinking it through. So that's what we did in the classes when someone put it on the wrong side, if you will. It worked out just fine. You just got a different result. So that's why I'm going over it really carefully with you. And I have to think it through too. Believe me, I have to think it through. It's like, okay, I want this facing this. So I want it to go inside here. And because this is bulkier, because you've got all this extra material from the bottom of the bag, that's just something extra to deal with. You're going to have, it's going to be a little wider, like you can see. So I just want to make sure everything is lined up. See, over here we have the two flap bottoms, the bottom of the bag coming together, and that's why this came out wider. Here we just have the non-bottom of the bag coming together, so that's going to be more narrow. Now this last one is going to be fat like this again. So that's just how it's going to work out. But the main thing is I've got my bottoms lined up and my spine area lined up. Okay, so now we're going to go flap to flap. So this is the last one. I didn't quite get to the top on that one. That's okay. After all, this is a junk journal, right? This is all stuff that would normally go in the recycle. So you can see now, because I've got flap to flap, the bottom flap of the bag, we have a little wider here, and that's just fine. And I can just kind of push it down and get it as tight as possible. And nothing is oozing out, causing these to stick together. So I've got this flexibility. So the next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to, let's see. Oh, by the way, I do have a little guide here. So the next thing I want to do, I've got the hinges. So if I just had like 2 bags, that's why I say internal or external, because like in that one example, I had just 2 bags, so I can put that hinge all the way around. In other words, if it was just these 2, I could put the hinge all the way around and close those completely. Okay, so that's what I mean by external. So now I want to transform the appearance. Now this is where you can have fun doing collage, you can paint, you can stencil, you can stamp, whatever. So I'm going to do a little bit of all of that. And I'm going to start this time, because I did collage was what I did on the others. And on this one, I'm going to do some paint. So let me get some paint out and we'll get going with that. Now, just to warn you, I don't have any real plan here. I'm just winging it. Anyway, so I did get out some colors. I have some acrylic paints here. I have a white, I have something called toffee, mud splat, a little black, a little buff color, and so an old sock for wiping off the brush. This is a cottage cheese lid. Cottage cheese lids are great for mixing paint for your acrylics and that sort of thing. And this is a cottage cheese tub that I can wash the brush in. I have over here some stencils. I want to do a little bit of both. Especially on the front of these bags, I don't really need to cover everything. They're really nice bags, but I want to give them a little bit of something going on. So I have a couple of different textures. This one's kind of a burlap texture. This one is some grungy dots. And because they're coffee bags and I'm going to stick with the coffee, I'm definitely going to do a little bit with coffee stains type of thing. And this weird little thing is just a piece of mesh that I stuck on some sticky cushion that I have. And this can just create some random marks. So it's whatever you have type of thing. But yeah, I can highly recommend these little things. And this is a bit of a makeup sponge. It's just a little makeup sponge. So when I'm going through the stencils, I want to do the sponge kind of thing. So I need to think about my theme that I'm going to go with. And I think I'm going to go with the toffee. It's a really nice color. And that's probably more than I need, but I want to lighten it up a little bit. So that was kind of probably too much. It came out very easily, but that's okay. It doesn't take a lot of paint to do this sort of thing. And I guess I'll get a little bit of this buff color. Just a little bit for some variety. Okay. I think I'm going to start with the stenciling, and this is the cover. So think I'll do this. And as I said, I'm not going to paint over these boxes. I think these boxes are fun and they would be fun journaling spots. So I don't want to get too heavy-handed. I'm going to get that sponge just a little bit moist and daub off the excess. And you can reuse these if they stay wet. You can reuse them. So I'm probably going to paint or ink the edges of the bags. So just make sure this is in the camera. So just pick up a little of that buff and a teeny little bit of that toffee color. And you don't need a lot of paint on the sponge. And of course you could do this on the bags before you hinge them together. Okay, I'd like a little more contrast. Either I want it darker or I want it lighter. So that's the next decision, is to make it a little bit darker or a little bit lighter. And I think I'm going to go for, see how my dexterity goes here so that I can hold everything down at the same time. So let's see how this one looks. This we can go over the top as many times as we like. Okay, so that's nice. That has that subtle quality I was looking for, but still has some contrast. Okay, I'm happy with that. And ooh, I should have a container with some water in it. I'll be right back. Okay, I have a tray of water over there so that I can keep my stencils wet, and so that when the acrylic paint dries, if I know a lot of people with their stencils, they just, let the acrylic paint build up, and you can do that on stencils that have larger holes, and then they don't clog up really. So, but I like to keep them, just keep them wet so that I can get as much acrylic paint off as possible. So I added a little more of a lighter shade, the white and the buff together, and went around these edges a little bit. And one of the things I could do is I could use that same stencil just over and over and over again on all these pages. Oops, we're getting a little sticky there. Make sure those hinges are staying open. Yeah, so I could just keep going, but I want to just kind of take you through one layer, and then I'll finish the rest, and we'll come back, and, back and forth kinds of stuff. And I want to vary from one page to the next which stencil I use. So what I want to do now is I want to be a little more opaque over here. Now there's a couple of different ways of doing that. I'm going to just use a brush, and I have it sitting in the water. It's always a good idea with your brushes, in case, this is my kind of ratty work brush that I use for my glue and everything else, but I'm just going to be kind of loose with this, so I don't care that it's kind of ratty and getting old and funky. So it was a cheap brush to begin with, and I always like to keep a cheap brush or two or three around for glue and this kind of painting. But you get it wet first, and that puts moisture way up here, and this is called the ferrule. And if you've got moisture way up here, when you use acrylic paint, it won't suck it all the way up here, and you wind up with a lot of acrylic paint jammed into right up close here that you can never get out again. And once acrylic's dry, the brush is gone. You can't use it anymore. But if you get the bristles wet first, the paint will tend to stay away from that area because these bristles will draw the paint all the way up. So you want it to be wet first. So I hope that was a useful tip. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of have like a little loose but not too precise mix. And I'm going to be very sketchy with it. Just have a variety of colors on the brush. That's what I decided to do for this particular one, because I want to mostly kind of cover this up. There's I guess I'm thinking in terms that this could be, well, I don't know. I want to decorate it differently. It can be a journaling spot. You can write on acrylic paint, uh, with certain kinds of pens. I don't want to get carried away here. I just want it to merge with the dots a little bit. And then I want to come back to it and do a little more after it's dried. I want to do layers on this. Layers, I haven't done enough of layering with this kind of thing. So that's what I'm going for, is to do some layering. So one step at a time. Okay, so I have this, and it's really easy then to go to the back. So while this is drying, I can go to the back and work on that. And now I'm going to go back to a stencil, just doing it in reverse this time. How about, so this is the back cover. Let me try this brown by itself. Okay, that's interesting. Now to balance that out, I want to put some down here. So see, it brings the eye across. It balances it out. That's looking good. Okay, I'm going to dry this, and then I'll come back. We'll do some more layers. It only takes a couple of minutes because this paper is very absorbent, and this paint is thin on here, so it's drying super fast. So that's great. That makes it easier. So because I'm going to go for kind of the coffee theme, I have this stencil with some splats on it, and this particular color is called Mud Splat. How perfect is that, right? So, and I put a piece of double stick tape underneath my lid here because it makes it easier for me to do the pouncing and hold the stencil. So I did. I put a piece of double stick tape there. So this, yeah, this is the front. That's the back. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of these things. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a coffee type stain. I also have some rubber stamps with various stains like that. And then we'll put a little splat down here. What's neat about this particular color, now see it kind of disappeared because it's the same color as this background color on here. So that didn't really do anything down there, but that's okay. Let me get this back over here. But because I've already painted on some of this, and I don't want to fill it in too perfect. I really want it to be a little more random. I might want to put a book plate on here, so it doesn't matter if some of it gets covered up, but and how about a drippy splat? I might put some decoration on the top, I don't know. Yeah, just one thing at a time. Alright, let's see. Maybe back here, I'll put that one in the water for the moment. Maybe back here I'll try this one. And what I'll do is I'll spread that paint out a little bit. Let's see how this works. Oh, yeah, that works. Yep, you can use it to kind of make a mess. Okay, I was just going to go with the kind of the coffee grungy. I think I need a splat. I put this in the water right away, but I can just tap it off on some paper towel. Well, I know I'm going to do more. I'm not too sure what. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do just what I did here on the other pages, creating a little variety between them. And then I'll be back and we'll go on to the next step. Well, it is 1 week later, and I'll explain that in a minute in a way. But I did go ahead, when I made that last section of the video, I went ahead and I finished all the painting, and I also made sure I had the signature put together the way I wanted it. But for those of you who just want to see the structure, let me finish the structure before I do anything else, okay? And the way I finished painting it, now I didn't put any paint in the flexible spine area, but this is just the way it was. And then this side of the bag tended to be darker, and so I went much lighter. And anyway, so this was just, I just wound up painting and just doing this the same as the covers pretty much. I did the alternating. This was the spots, and then this was more of the weave, and then the spots and the weave and the spots. And there's the back. So it's nothing changed from what you just saw. Yeah, just went through the same process over and over again. Now on this one, I've already inserted these. I'll talk about that in a minute. But before I get to some of the finishing, I wanted to talk about this, because this spine area with the hinges, it opens quite a lot. And with this one, it doesn't. And what I did was I reduced the amount of give by really just, like you can see in here, putting glue just in this channel where you still see the printing. Just some glue into the channel where you see the printing. And on this side, just putting it in the channel, you know, put it on this side so that when they come together, and then we wind up with a little bit less expanding area. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I don't have to get all the way down to the bottom. This nozzle won't quite reach, but it's totally unnecessary because this is bound together much closer together. Okay, so really I just need to go in here and just bring these gusseted parts of the bag just a little bit tighter. We don't need quite that much expansion room. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this one. As I said, I don't need to go all the way to the bottom of the bags. Just need to get some glue. I'm using the stronger glue. It's just the Barely Art Craft glue. You could use the Art Glitter glue. I could use PVA adhesive again. Actually, I could have done that. This was sitting here, so I just grabbed it. So what happened was I got all this painting done, and I got the, so see, we got to hold it together for a little while, so it can adhere. So I got the painting done, and I got the signature more complete the way I wanted it. Okay, so there's that side. And now we'll do that side, and then we just need to let it set up. And I hit a wall, as I like to put it. I just hit a point where I went, oh, I just don't know how to finish this. I just didn't have all the parts and pieces made. I was kind of lost. And then I was looking around the studio, and I went, this place needs a little help. So I embarked on a few days of studio organization, and I let go of some things, and well, the house needed a few extra things, and I went to a couple of art play dates, and then things kind of evolved. But my cleaning up the studio a little bit and organizing some of my supplies, I found things. I went, oh, that's where that went. You know how it is. Okay, so now Okay. Don't want it to get too glued together. I want to check and make sure it's not getting too close. Okay. So now I'm going to let that set. So what I've done, now let's put this back on. This little nozzle clogs up pretty darn fast if I don't get that in there. Okay, so I'm going to let that set up just another minute. And my signature is I looked through all my stuff, and this is a piece of heavier weight scrapbook paper. So I wanted to, and it has, it just kind of has a coffee-ish kind of look to it. This was some lined paper that I just sprayed with coffee, did a little splatter thing. So I just wanted to create a bit of a variety here, keeping with the brown, grungy kind of look, and kind of carry that throughout. And then I had this paper bag, and now you'll see where what happened is I had done all this painting, and I didn't have anything planned for tags or any of that, pockets, whatnot. I just hadn't gotten that far. But then when I did get more inspired, I went, oh, okay, well, how about if I make some journal cards and also paint? I had this brown paper, so there's like a journal card, and there's a journal card, and so there's that paper bag, and it's just glued at the bottom and one in the channel. And then I have just a couple of more offcuts from this sheet of paper. So those can fit in those tuck spots. And I think this is probably getting close to where I can sew in the signature. And then I was inspired because I found things, and I went, okay, I'm going to make little goodies to go throughout here. So this is very straightforward. This is the back page. I just wanted to cover up the bottom of the bag. So let's just go ahead and do that. I've got some parts and pieces here and things. So I was looking at doing something like this. And what it is this isn't very deep, the bottom of the bag. So I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be fun to put something else in there that could go a lot deeper, so I could make a tall tag. So that's what I had in mind there. So before gluing down the bottom of the bag, I wanted to decide what I was going to put in there. So let's just go ahead and glue these in place. So sometimes it's just a good idea, and I'm just going slightly below where this top of the bag is. I'm just going slightly below, just so it disappears. And at that point now I can, gotta give it time to set, goodness. At this point now, stay. And I think what's happening here that I need to keep in mind is that there's a lot of paint on here, and this is an ideal glue to use for this kind of mixed media surface. It isn't just paper. When this goes onto just paper, it grabs really, really fast. And this is all this paint, so I have to give it a little more time. And so that's glued down. Now I could turn this into a pocket as well. So I could have a pocket, a pocket, a pocket. And I'm not going to do that. I think 2 pockets for a slim journal that this is. It's very slim. And there's going to be 4 of these that are double pockets. I think that's enough. And I did something different with the pockets on the back, which I will show you. And so the other thing that I was thinking about was, and I'm lining this up with the other one. The other thing I was thinking about during my lull of cleaning the studio, organizing some things, was who is going to want this? Because I make journals mostly to sell on my Etsy shop. Transparency here. I'm going to let that sit for a minute and go ahead and put this one down. And this one I was going, well, I think I just want to sell this one on Etsy. I want to at least offer it on Etsy. I sold a journal a couple days ago that had been on Etsy for a year. So if you also like to sell your journals, keep that in mind. It just takes time sometimes for the right person to come along and realize either they come to your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube, or in this case, I don't know whether they were searching on Etsy or they found that journal on YouTube. It's in my playlist. So I don't know how they found me, but they found me and they bought one of my journals, which I really appreciate. If you're out there, Gail, thank you. I hope you're enjoying it. And that's it. I want to make journals that people enjoy, that they get to put their own creative touch into it. And on some of the people that I've corresponded with, what they are looking for are structures, journals that are all of this structural stuff has been done, and then they get to put their own play into it. And that is super important to me and to the people that are interested in them. And so in my correspondence with people, it brought up to me this idea that I don't want to over embellish. I mean, I could really go to town with this and get, all do stickers and make clusters and put clusters on the pockets and back here and in all these different places. But I'm kind of taking the play away from whoever winds up wanting to buy this journal and then goes, oh, well, I kind of would rather do my own thing. I mean, right now, this is a good structure. It's grungy, it has coffee as a theme. If you were to sniff these bags, you would still smell the coffee. And so, it's like I want to leave room for others to play. And most of my journals are that way. So now, see, we have a lot less expansion going on, and this will help this particular paper bag journal to be a little calmer, if you will, a little more flat. So let's see. The next thing I need, now where did I put it? Okay, here it is. Closure. So I got this closure started. I have some hemp twine here. I said, I like to think about closures, especially while these things are still open, while I can still also get into the bag like this. I want to get into the bag. So I just punched out 4 circles from one of my brown paper scraps, glued them all together, inked them, and this was a brass brad, and I didn't want it to be brass. I wanted it to be in theme with the coffee. So I just used some alcohol ink on it and a heat set tool, a heat gun. And so there's probably, if one scraped on it, all the paint, the alcohol ink, whatever would come off. But hey, it's there right now, and I doubt it's going to get much abuse. So I need my bookbinding awl. Now this could be a little tricky. Let me see what I've got here. I think what I can do is just fold up a piece of paper. I don't have a skinny mat board. But if I put this in here, I'm going to be very careful. I'm just going to get it started. So yeah, where do I want this? Where do I want this? Yeah, I think I want it right about there. Right about there. So I'm just going to barely make a hole. There we go. Run that between my fingers. Okay, and before I open up the legs of this brad, I want to get this piece of cord started. I'm going to tie this. Oops. I'm going to tie this to the brad first. I've had some difficulties. I'm just going to go ahead and tie this first, because I've had some difficulties in the past of making the brad too snug on the paper, and then what happens is it's just a bit tight to do the little wind around. So now that's creating some bulk underneath that's going to hold it away from the paper. Okay, back in you go. And now I can open it up. And I probably should have done this before I glued that hinge down a little bit tighter. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. When you've got the full hinge, it gives you a little more room for sticking your hand inside. So I got ahead of myself a little bit. All right. There they go. And I do want to put a piece of tape in there. Again, it would have been good if I'd done that before I closed up that hinge too much. But this is working. I just want to get this in here and on those tines or legs of the brad, so that when something is put in and out of the pocket, it doesn't get caught. I sure hope this is useful information for you. I appreciate again the people that requested this video for how to make this kind of a... Now see, look at how nice that is. It goes right around, and I just cut excess. Perfect. Okay, so we have these in. There's no pockets in here, although I'm going to make a little extra goodie, and we got the pockets here. Now what I did here was I did add gussets to these pockets. The bottom of the bag is glued down flush, but then I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a couple of bags that had gussets? They're not really big gussets. This one, but they give a little bit more give. So what do I have? This was just part of the cleanup, so I went, okay, if I were somebody looking for a journal that I was going to do my own creativity, artistic stuff in, but I kind of needed a foundation, I'm not inclined to manufacture this particular part of the structure. Maybe somebody wants to do a scrapbook. Maybe it's a memory kind of a piece where they go on a travel trip and they want to put some pieces in. They want to put some of the ephemera in the pockets, any of the pockets, they got photos, whatever it is. What would I want? I'd want something that was structural. I'd want something that was journal cards, places that I can put my own, literally put my stamp on it. These are stencils. These are stencils. I didn't do any stamping in this, which is interesting. I usually do some stamping, but all of these are pockets. And of course I could cut out a little circular part here, and I pretty much decided I wasn't going to do that. These bags are sturdy because they have the plastic lining, as I said before, and so if I have those big tall tags in there. I mean, those are a whole nother place to put all kinds of stuff, and there's expansion rooms, so those could have some layers on them. So I was thinking about what would I want as a consumer. This is some corrugated cardboard. And, you know, you can write on this. You could definitely put another layer on it. I thought about putting like another layer on the back. And let's see, this is the front two pockets that way. Then I made this little notepad thing, and that was another reason to put the gussets, because this fits much better in a pocket with gussets than one of these tight pockets. So let me see here. I had the stencil out, so I thought I'd have a little fun with this big stencil. Just little journaling cards. And I had some random tickets. And to make life easier, I am not going to sew in the signature with the big tags in, because they do add to it. And for that matter, let's take out these big ones, because these big ones add bulk that interferes with the sewing. And I'll get some clips. And see, I didn't make it all the way to the top. I left some wiggle room at the top and the bottom. But yes, I really want it snug in there. And again, see, if these tags were in there, they would be causing trouble. Be hard to get in to these places. And I want to keep it mostly closed when I clip it, as it helps push that signature deep into the groove. Okay. So, and I have it, actually I don't have any, so yeah, this is the only thing that needs to be right side up. So I've got it right side up. And what I'm using is, because I used a hemp cord here, I got out a piece of hemp and I thought that would be really a nice, some black hemp would be nice. But one of the problems with hemp is that when you're going through the holes to stitch, it tends to catch. It doesn't want to go through smoothly. This is some beeswax from my sewing box. If you wax hemp cord, it will go through those holes easier. And that's what we want. Whoops. It's getting caught in there, so keep it over. Yeah, that's a big improvement. I'm going to do a couple more swipes. Because it's a little thicker than baker's twine. It's a little thicker than embroidery floss. So we need to have it go through smoothly. And I'm using one of my big needles. I think I'll tuck this, kind of tuck this in there, kind of get it out of the way. Okay, I'm 3-hole pamphlet stitch. Fast forward through this if you know what's going on. Oh, the other thing you want to think about, this is good, this is important. Down here, which is the bottom of the bags, you don't want to be poking a hole into this area because there's nothing there. So make sure that your bottom hole in your signature is above the level of the hinge. So that's the one extra tip. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. And I have this bag raised up so that it matches, and I can just really put it on an angle, see where my finger is and where I want to poke the hole. And so I'm going a little high on this, but that's okay. That's going to work fine. And see, that's just coming out of the middle of that. And I need the one in the middle. Well, I guess I take those out too. So the first hole is right there. And I was just doing that because I didn't want to go off the end of the hinge. So I can go a little higher here, a little more to the middle. And put my needle in there. And one more at the top. And the top doesn't matter because I know the hinge is there, so I can go a little bit closer to the top on this. Okay, so now let's see how tough this is. Yeah, I'm going to get the pliers. As I said, if you know how to do 3-hole pamphlet stitch, you can fast forward. There we go. It's always a little bit tricky. Ooh, how nice. That went in easily. Oh, the waxing makes a huge difference. Absolutely. Well, that was much easier than I expected. I always like to get those clips off before I tighten completely because sometimes they can hold things at a distance. I don't want to get too crazy with tightening because I don't want to tear. Yeah, these are not real strong pages, right? Okay. So I hope it makes sense what I was saying about thinking about, in my case, a consumer. If you're making it as a present for somebody, for them to use for their travel adventures, or perhaps a special event, you know, and you love making the structure, and you want to give them play space, because that's what I'm doing here, is I'm creating a play space. And actually could have 8 tags in here. So now it's getting, it's getting alligator mouth, so I definitely needed a closure on this one. Time for a flip through. I thought I was going to show a couple more things, but I just went ahead and finished it off because I'm already over an hour. I seem to do that. Yeah, so I added some fun beads. And if you're just joining me from Etsy to see the flip through, thank you for being here. And those of you who have been here, you've seen this whole process. And we'll get to the big ones in a minute. These are four coffee bags that I got from the health food store when I'd buy coffee in bulk. So I've left these little spots as like journaling spots, and this is acrylic paint, so this is just a lot of stenciling, brushing, that sort of thing. We've got a real easy simple tie here, and I added pockets. These pockets are the bottom of the paper bag, and so I added pockets, and these are just some corrugated cardboard tags ready to embellish. And this is the thing with this particular journal, is that this is a structure with little bits and pieces and tags and things to play with, so that it's a base for whoever decides to get this, and they get to have their play. They take this grungy sort of fun, simple, very, very simple and neutral, pops of color, photographs, ephemera, add more pockets, add a belly band, all that sort of thing. So we have some scrapbook paper, and this is a fun thing I learned from another presenter, and I don't know who that was. So whoever you are, thank you for the inspiration. This is, you fold it in half and fold it in half and cut it diagonal. Do a little practice on just some scrap paper. So this is 12-inch wide scrapbook paper. I cut it down to 7 inches, folded it in half one way, half the other way, cut it diagonal, and there you are. It's really, really simple. And I have some fun number rubber stamps, so I just made tags that would fit in these pockets that are ready to embellish, and they could be collaged over the top of the numbers. It doesn't matter. This is a stamp I made. when I was making stamps. So there we go. Everybody has good ideas. So that can slide in there. This could also become a belly band with a tuck spot on the side. It could go over here and be a tuck spot, a pocket over here, or it can just stay in this pocket, right? So this is coffee splattered and just a variety of simple papers and packaging papers and tea dyed and coffee dyed paper. Just this is ready for someone to have fun with. Very simple tags and little journaling spots. Nice little paper bag pockets. Same here. And I left it a little long. You could tie a bow or dangle something a little bit. Not a whole lot of room for that. So yeah, just simple papers. This could be glued down and it could become a pocket. Same with that. And here's another one. So I had a couple sheets of this scrapbook paper. So again, 7.5-inch tag, 5.5-inch tag, and a 3.5-inch tag. Simple, ready to embellish with clusters. You know, you could put clusters on here. Just some bits and pieces. And a little notebook. And I hope that makes sense what I was describing. Oh, and yes, there's the gussets on these back pockets, not on the front pockets. And in the big tall paper bag we have some journaling cards. And they're all very, very similar. This is stenciling. Both of these are stenciling. And I thank you for hanging in with me, those of you who watched the tutorial. I sincerely hope that it was interesting. And please, please, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I wanted to fulfill the request, plural requests, to make this tutorial. And I hope it made sense that I'm making this simple so that someone on Etsy who's interested in buying it can see that there's a whole lot of great structure here, ready for the personalization. And when I sell my journals, it's kind of like a little kit. I include the papers. I'm going to include some of this hemp twine, and so there's some papers that are going to go with it. It'll all go in a big bubble envelope, and it'll be ready for somebody to take and have fun with. And I hope you had fun. Thank you for being here, and I hope you'll join me next time. Thanks. Bye for now.